Good evening. In the world of modern geopolitics, few figures have been as polarizing as Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu. Dubbed by critics as a warmongering duo, their leadership tenures have been marked by aggressive rhetoric, controversial military actions, and a shared embrace of ultranationalism and brinksmanship. From the US withdrawal from the Iran nuclear deal under Trump to Netanyahu's staunch policies towards Gaza and Iran, both leaders have faced accusations of fueling conflict rather than fostering peace. I am Bahman Nouri, and in this spotlight, we will examine the extent to which their actions reflect deliberate warmongering during the complexities of regional security and global diplomacy. Let us begin with a short report. My guests are Saad Nimr, Professor of Political Science from Birzeit University, joining us from Ramallah, and Khaled Barakat, spokesperson, Masar Badil Movement, joining us from Beirut. Well, of course, we are going to start talking about, but first, let's start with Saad Nimr, who is with us right now. Professor Nimr, very good to have you on this program. I needed to talk to you about the fact that this meeting that's going to happen between Trump and Netanyahu, do you think this is a genuine diplomatic effort or a calculated performance designed to distract from the humanitarian crisis in Gaza and reframe recent military actions as victories?
Well, good evening to you and to your guest from Beirut and to all your viewers. Well, apparently that the Israeli now are seeking a kind of an exit to what's going on in Gaza, because now the pressure is so high, not only against the army, the Israeli army in Gaza, who's taking hits one after another, and also the pressure inside the Israeli society. Things had reached, the moment that Netanyahu need to get out of this problem. So he gave it to the Americans, and as if Trump is pressurizing Israel and pressurizing Netanyahu in order to stop the war against Gaza. But there are lots of details which shows that it's a kind of a plan from the Israeli and the Americans, especially the paper which was presented by Witkoff to the meeting, and Hamas just gave their answer to it. It shows clearly that the plan by Netanyahu and the Americans as well is going, to pressurize Gaza even more, even if we are talking about, a ceasefire for 60 days, but not to stop the war. Talking about, redeployment, but not talking about, withdrawal of Gaza. Talking about reorganizing the food and the humanitarian aid to Gaza, but not opening the crossings and allowing the international organizations to take charge of the distribution of the humanitarian aid. So basically, we can say that what Netanyahu wants and Trump try to show a kind of a victory to the Israelis and to the world and to everyone, and especially to Trump, that there is a victory out of this, ceasefire, and Israel is now victorious. They eliminated Hamas from their point of view, and they are going, to disarm Hamas. This is what they are talking about now, and all these kind of things. Exactly like after 12 days of the war on Iran, and we know exactly the situation in Israel, and yet Israel claiming that it's a victory for Netanyahu and for the Israeli government. So it's the same thing. What they couldn't achieve in the war, right, now they are trying to achieve by diplomacy.
Right. Well, Mr. Khaled Barakat, very good to have you also on the show. Can you tell me, to what extent do you think the timing and media coverage of this meeting suggests a strategic attempt to manipulate global narratives and bolster their political images and amid the mounting international pressure?
Yes, that's a very important question. Good evening to you first and to your guest, Dr. Nemir. The situation really suggests that the United States and Israel is saying on a daily basis that they have failed. The reason that there is a drumming of war in Israel, particularly when it comes to Iran, is because they have failed in the first round. And that's the biggest contradiction that the Israeli government led by Netanyahu is going through. In one hand, they claim that they achieved victory, and on the other hand, they are talking about a second round of war. And I think that the entire world have seen what happened. There was an aggression, although Israel have always tried to portray that as if it's a preemptive strike, and really the world is shocked with this Israeli rhetoric, because Iran was involved in negotiations with the United States in good faith, and the whole region was watching this, waiting for something to come out from these negotiations. Iran have been very flexible in terms of talking directly or indirectly with the United States, but then a deception happened, and the United States and Israel have been planning long, 3 months ago, to attack Iran. On the international level, we have seen a widespread solidarity with Iran on popular level, as well as the countries of the region. I mean, the entire West Asia, Arab countries, Islamic countries, regardless of some of their how much their some of these countries mean it or not, but all of these countries were saying that Iran is defending itself and Israel was the aggressor. I think the United States and Israel have failed in terms of pushing Iran to accept surrender, accept conditions, accept to go along with the Western and the U.S. plot against the region and against the people of the region. But at the same time, an experience have happened. We have in front of us 12 days of direct confrontation. And Israel, I think, have lost, and the United States have lost its credibility entirely. Now, if they want to attack Iran, if they want to attack Yemen, and that's why the question today in the media is who Israel and the United States are going to attack, because they are the aggressor. No one is asking, if Iran is going to attack any country, because Iran is not the aggressor here. The world knows, the international community understands. We just want to see a real position from countries like Russia, like China, like these countries to stand up and say, where they stand now.
Right. Well, Professor Nemir, I want to bring your attention to the 60-day ceasefire that is on the table between Hamas and Israel. Well, of course, we've had an experience like this a month ago, which did not end well for the Palestinian side. Do you think this is really a permanent way to end the war? Or do you think this is going to be, again, a merely tactical pause that risks collapsing under the unresolved demands and mutual distrust that is there?
No, I believe that no, genuinely it will be a ceasefire within a few days for many reasons. One of them, it's Trump himself, that he wants to appear in front of the whole world as a peacemaker, and he's talking, proudly about what happened between India and Pakistan. He's talking about Rwanda. He's talking about here and there, and then now he'll say, I brought the peace to Gaza, and now we are going to be also engaged in negotiations for peace with Iran. So he's trying to get that image. This is on Trump's part. Now, for Netanyahu's part, as I was explaining, Netanyahu now feels that he's in trouble and this war should be ended. However, he knew that his coalition in the government are not happy at all with this kind of war stopping. But at the same time, most of the people in Israel or on this entity, 70% according to the polls, saying that we need to stop the war. So even if that, the cost that we will pay for releasing the prisoners from the captivity of the Palestinian resistance, even if that goes to stop the war totally. So now Netanyahu is under pressure, but the main pressure is coming from the army. The army, and last Thursday, when in a meeting in the cabinet, there was a quarrel between Netanyahu and Zamir, the chief of staff in the Israeli army, who's saying that we don't know what we are doing in Gaza. We have no plan. We have finished all our jobs there. We have no targets to achieve, and we have no plan, and we need the political side to tell us what to do, either to withdraw and to stop the war, or to give us a new task in Gaza. The situation now, or today, as he said, is that we are like a sitting duck for the Palestinian resistance, who are, recently had escalated their operations against the Israeli army. We are talking about last month, June, 20 soldiers were killed. Beginning with this month till today, we are still at the beginning of the month. We are talking about 6 soldiers were killed till now. So with this cost, definitely Netanyahu is going to think about it. In addition to that, there are many reports coming saying that there are a desperation in the Israeli army, and the soldiers' morale is very, very low and bad, and
Right.
people don't want to continue in the war. So these all are pressures on Netanyahu to stop the war, and I believe he will bank on it. He will sell it to Trump that he will stop the war in spite of all the difficulties, but at the same time he wants to gain other things from Trump.
Khalid, I want to know your opinion on this too, because given Israel's rejection of key Hamas conditions like full military withdrawal and also UN-led aid distribution, how do you think this is going to end in a lasting peace?
I think with Israel there is no lasting peace, but on this agreement, I agree with Dr. Nimmer that we are going to see a partial agreement of a 60-day ceasefire. We will see that because the Israeli army morale is down, it's deteriorating. And we know that for a fact, not because it's a wishful thinking, but because we are looking closely to the Israeli army conditions and the contradictions that it's happening today publicly between the army and the political leadership of Israel. I mean, in the last meeting of the cabinet, they were like shouting at each other and blaming each other, Netanyahu and Zamir. And that's because the army have failed in Gaza to achieve its goals. And in the last month particularly, the Palestinian resistance have been attacking the Israeli occupation forces, leaving heavy casualties on the ground. And so Netanyahu have no other choice but to sign an agreement. Of course, there is 3 main issues that is going to be, tough to negotiate. One is the entire withdrawal of the Israeli occupation forces. They're trying to keep their army on certain areas. The other issue is the humanitarian aid, the failure of the U.S. and Israel on this front in terms of controlling food distribution in Gaza have been noticed by the entire international community. We want to see international agencies like the World Food Program, like the UNRWA, like the United Nations, who's been operating in Gaza for over 70 years. They know what they're doing and they know the Strip really well,
Right.
while Israel and the United States wants to present a new global system that they control, that they can replace international community. And the third issue is guarantees. Who's going to guarantee Israel not to attack Gaza again? I mean, no one trusts Israel. You will not find one Palestinian who will trust Israel. Israel is the enemy of the Palestinian people. They've been committing genocide and war crimes for the past 21 months. And we have seen that, the United
Right.
Nations and the international community are paralyzed, not being able to do anything because of the United States and Western imperialist forces.
Right, Khalid. Well, Professor Namar, I wanted to know that regarding the Iran and Israel's conflict, given Trump's recent involvement in joint strikes against Iran's nuclear sites and his reluctance to actually challenge Netanyahu's stance on any of the in any of the instances, does this signal a dangerous alignment towards further escalating conflict rather than pursuing diplomacy?
Well, let us just put things into perspective. What the Israeli aim by the starting this war against Iran was not the nuclear program. It's part of it, but not the main aim. The main aim was to bring down the whole Islamic Republic in Iran and to change the regime totally in Iran. That was the aim, and that's how they even convinced Trump, to help in this respect, while they are also were helping them in gathering information. They were relying on the opposition in Iran. They were relying on some agents and spies who were planted in Iran to do these kind of things with the first strike, and then the regime will collapse, and especially with the assassination of more than 20 leaders in the first day and scientists, they were relying on the collapse of the regime, and the regime can't handle such a strike, and the opposition will move forward, and then the whole system will collapse. In such case, there is no now worries about the nuclear program, because the new government will be totally pro-America and pro-Israel, and they will do whatever they wanted, exactly like the situation in Syria today. And no worries also about the ballistic missiles and the program as well, because it will be dismantled. That's how the Israelis were thinking. Now, with the first strike, Iran was stand still, and they gathered their efforts, and they started retaliating. This was not expected by Israel, and they were in shock. Then this retaliation continued for 12 days, and the Israelis do know that it was a big defeat for Israel, because they couldn't stand. All the reports were saying that Israel won't stand another week with these strikes, and that's why they went to United States to ask for, to stop the war and to cease fire and to do all these kind of things. The Iranians were having the upper hand, but in Israel they are trying now to show it as it was their victory, and with Trump, and that's why Trump was very, very annoyed with the speech last week of Ali Khamenei, because he is talking about victory for Iran, and Trump is talking about victory for America and Israel. This is something that they wanted to do. Now they think that they will resume negotiations with Iran, thinking that Iran now is weaker because of these strikes and because of this war, and they could now put more pressure on Iran to give more concessions on regarding the nuclear program and the ballistic missiles program. And they didn't understand, the situation, and apparently they were under this impression that Iran now is weaker. For God's sake, they are dealing even with Hamas and with the Palestinian resistance, that they are now weaker because Iran was defeated in this war, which is total rubbish. These are their own hopes. It's not the reality.
Right, Khalid, I want to talk a little bit about Trump's portrayal as a global peacemaker here amid these ceasefire talks and diplomatic overtures. Do you think this is an authentic pursuit of peace, or a calculated effort to cement his legacy and exert influence over regions like Gaza and possibly Iran?
Yeah, no one believes that Trump is a peacemaker, not even Trump himself. I mean, when we look at the United States internal situation, when we look at the media in the United States, the contradictions, the issues that he's trying to pass in the Congress, U.S. foreign policy, all of that does not indicate that Trump is a peacemaker. And I don't know where that comes from. I mean, this is a guy who, when he first got elected, he started problems with Canada, Mexico, Europe, and these are like his neighbors, basically, trying to impose conditions on them, creating a mess and a chaos in the United States relationship with the whole world. I mean, now he and his administrators, his Zionist administration, is actually realizing that they have started on the wrong foot, and that the United States cannot impose its own system on the world. And they need to understand that they are an empire that is shrinking, that it doesn't have the same teeth it used to have, it doesn't have the same power it used to have. Yes, sometime in our region, this is, blown out of proportional when we see Trump talking to some of these Arab reactionary regimes, milking them with like trillions of dollars. We think that the United States is like, a god who wants to impose its will on the people. But in reality, he is weak. And we see that on a daily basis. Look, in the United States, there were no stomach for this attack against Iran, for the aggression against Iran. And any second round of aggression against Iran will not have any support, not even on legislative, situation, let alone the popular position in the U.S.
Right. And Professor Nimr, regarding the fact that many analysts are saying that Netanyahu seeks war and needs war to cling to power. And also we've had the out-and-out support of Donald Trump for him regarding his corruption trials and everything. How do you think this meeting between Trump and Netanyahu could be about Netanyahu seeking sort of a permission to renew escalation with Iran?
Oh, yes, absolutely. But maybe not for sooner, but maybe later, because they are now claiming that at least they had delayed the nuclear program in Iran for at least 2 to 3 years. But they didn't say that we eliminate the program. So they know that Iran still have the ability and the capability to create their own program again and to continue. Because of that, there is some concern, for Netanyahu, because he knew that it won't take time, and his lies about victory is going to be exposed. So even in front of his own people. So he wants to make sure that he will be having guarantees from the United States that he might do the war again. But I believe he tried and he tasted what could happen, and without the immediate help by the United States to Israel, they couldn't last at all, because they were, losing all their defenses. And all the estimates after the war, even from the Israelis, they would say that Israel wouldn't last one more week. Sorry, in this war, if it continued, and they will just, be without defenseless. And at the same time, yesterday, there was a report, at least for the very first time, talking about the accurate hits by Iran to several military bases in Israel and other targets, which was very significant, targets in Israel. And that showed that now they have to think twice, and they need the help of the United States if they want to go again against Iran.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. I really wanted to continue the conversation. I wanted to talk about the Abraham Accords as well, but unfortunately, for the sake of time, we have to end this here. Thank you so much once again, Professor Saad Nimr, Professor of Political Science, Birzeit University, joining us from Ramallah, and also Khaled Barakat, spokesperson of Masar Badil Movement, joining us from Beirut. And to you, our dear viewers, thank you so much for staying with us. And another Spotlight. I am Bahman Nurai.